Letting You Go, Joe was written before the Edinburgh Fringe a couple of years ago, and then I did a very quick scratch performance of it. It came out of a really indignant response to conversations with actors who'd been working in call centres to, inevitably try and get their rent money in. Some had enjoyed it more than others, and one of them had particularly got good feedback that their acting skills clearly worked in the call centre. They got very top quality scores from their mentor. Mentor was a line manager, basically in another country, just contacting them by Skype and giving them feedback. This was the call that was recorded for training purposes. And then they'd been very quickly and summarily fired within seconds and told to literally pack up their digital things and get offline because they'd been taking too long on their calls and missed their targets. And that's the world now, where people are splitting up by text, ending relationships, even ending marriages, without even meeting people. Some people, that suits them, but a lot of people are horrified by that. And when I heard that, I kind of penned a play very quickly. I probably was in quite an angry place with it, and I wrote a very brutal play that we scratched at the end of the Fringe with some actors just around a table at the Assembly in Edinburgh. But I was going towards an event in Slovenia, which was a kind of artistic business creative conference, and I had a slot there, and so I proposed that the play was performed there, and it went down so well. We performed it twice, and then it got taken to another conference down on the south coast as an almost ready piece of drama, although in its early stages. And the brilliant Nick Collette played a character, and I played the other one, who was in my bedroom, physically in the theatre. We'd set up a scene with the audience, and then he was on a huge screen live, actually coming from Scotland where he was, as the other actor, acting live virtually over the internet. And in the scenario, basically, he's having a performance review with me. I'm middle-aged, probably need to move on anyway, but just expecting the usual routine conversation about my performance in a company. And he's kind of got to follow the rules, and he fires me. And it's very brutal, and you get my reaction, and it's all about what happens when, in this case it's called Letting You Go, Joe, when we're rejected, when we're thrown out, and it's not even in a physical room, when someone does that via the internet. He was huge up on the screen, and you could also see him on my laptop. There was an intensity in the room. The script is kind of too brutal in my view. It's a bit of a horrible play, even though the reaction was good. What we want to do now, I think, and what I want to do as writer, is really devise that a bit better. This isn't something for me to go away and just rewrite. I like the devising room. I'd like to get people in that room who do that, who fire people right now, who have meetings with staff across the other side of the world that they may never physically meet. I'd like to do more interviews with people who have actually found love, but equally ended love by their fingertips, by texts. Is this the world we want? Is this the world that's developing, where we're more and more separated from each other physically, even as we're more and more connected to each other virtually? Letting You Go, Joe is kind of the latest work from Rational Madness Theatre, and there's a lot of scope for it. We have an early version of this play that's in development. So I'm keen to get people's thoughts, people's questions. I'd like to dialogue more around it, maybe even a whole conference around this notion of what happens when we disconnect and connect, and to look into that more through the possibility not only of theatre, but theatre that mirrors that and is performed in more than one venue. It opens the real possibility also of having parallel theatres happening together, where the guy that's being fired has an audience watching him, and the guy that's doing the firing has an audience watching him in two separate rooms, and maybe even the possibility for them to then swap audiences and see it from the other perspective, and then bring those audiences together for some hot seating with the actors, for some forum theatre, or maybe just to head off in shock at it. As I said, I think it came across quite brutally, so it was only half an hour long. Not that that's bad, but there might be a rewrite and a rework to look at this where less is more, or where we're a bit more subtle, or where there's scope for this to not be so obvious. There was an obviousness about the firing process, and I think I want to either take that further into even more shock and brutality of what it's like in that moment, or to take it back and allow the play to kind of demonstrate itself without too much interference from the writer. So there's lots of scope with Letting You Go, Joe, but it starts in a very, very good draft. And it very much follows on from a previous show called Text, which is also in development, that explored virtual communication and virtual relationships. We're all heading in this direction to what Ray Kurzweil calls the technological singularity in 2040 or 2050. And that's the scary or exciting place where more than half of humanity, and more than 50%, literally, hardwired and physically connected to digital innovation. that tipping point is where we become more digital than human, and will we maintain our humanity, and will we go somewhere good with this, somewhere exciting, right to the extremes of, you've got Elon Musk wanting to port his entire consciousness into an immortal internet, or are we crazy? Are we heading for, disaster, along with the environmental disaster that's suggested? All of these things represent the context around letting you go, Joe. And I like the idea of presenting a simple story of just two people that reflects that debate too, without that debate impinging too much on it, taking it over. So I'm excited about this one. I've kind of left it because I was shocked by my own play, and I walked away with a certain distaste for it. It also needs to find its funding where I don't have to be the actor, and it's not my ideal thing to do, and we did that for budgets. So I'm looking to kind of recast me and possibly look at maybe one more character. I'm not quite sure. The possibilities of using live internet-based theatre really excite me, not as a gimmick, but to actually show what we're talking about in really direct terms. And the audience seem to appreciate that. So there's more scope to look into how live internet theatre that kind of juxtaposes itself with live physical theatre work together in a way that's not gimmicky. And I'm still looking into that too. So watch this space.